It's about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start.
Yep.
Hello everyone and welcome to another meeting of the C++ Digital Signal Processing JUCE study group. And with us today we have Fotis. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm all good.
And that's not all. We also have Bo on the call. Hello, Bo.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, good. Great to have you here. And also Cwits is here. Hello, Cwits.
Hello, everybody.
It's the whole gang.
Yeah.
So, how is everyone doing? Did you have a chance of working on stuff? How did it go?
We did.
Yeah, of course.
Mixed feelings.
Okay.
Yeah, Visual Studio, it's its own little beast.
Yeah.
It's
No doubts.
All right. So do you want to jump straight in and talk about the problems you're having, or do you want to start with some lighter stuff? I have lighter stuff that I can talk about.
Sure.
It's all fine with me.
Yeah, you can get this out of the way because
Okay.
we're gonna take a while.
Okay, I'll briefly give my update. I worked on the Automixer on the streams. You all already know about it. And I did some electronic stuff, but I don't think there is anything major to share. So it's mostly a skip for me this week. That's why it's so light and fast. And I have been watching more of the videos on the, I think the name is Moritz Klein. I talked about him last time, and he is doing some DIY synths. And what I learned is that he has a collaboration with Erica Synths. So they are doing these kits that you can buy, but the point is not just that you would have a modular synth in the end. The point is that he explains, and there is this great manual, which is actually available for everyone. It's not part of the purchase. You can go to the website for Erica Synths and you will find the user manuals for the modules. And he explains in great detail why and how things work. And there are even breadboard prototypes. So if you want to purchase the kit, then of course go ahead and do that. But if you just want to read the manual and maybe source some of the components and experiment with things yourself, great way to learn. And that's what I have been up to. That's mostly my update. That's my update for the most part.
It's a hardware synth. It's a hardware synth.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a modular synthesizer.
I thought we were talking about the software synth. Oh, that's cool. Because I was just going to ask you how's your hardware coming along, the filters and etc.
Yeah. So really the main thing that I would like to be able to do on that front, I'm still working on the Automixer and I am going to translate it to C++. It's still happening. But on this hardware front, I've been thinking about doing more or less the same thing that Moritz Klein is doing, except that I am mostly interested in the kinds of audio effects you would use for voiceover. So the kind of thing that I could use on the stream, which is something that I don't think many people have done in the past. There are these people who are doing modular synthesizers. There is a huge community of guitar pedals. There are people who do DIY rack kind of effects, so your 1176 clones and that sort of thing. But no one is doing the like lightweight breadboard audio effects, and I don't know how well that would work, to be honest, but that's what I'm interested in doing. But I guess first I need to get some experience, so that's why I'm looking into the synthesizers, and also some guitar pedals, like what I showed a couple of meetings ago. So that's what I'm up to, and that's my goal on that front, to be able to do something like a DBX 286S on a breadboard kind of thing. I think that could be entertaining.
Awesome. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's my update for the week.
That's literally it.
So, you brought some compilation problems and other fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, who wants to go first?
Let's do.
Yeah.
Bo, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I guess I could go first. I'm
Totally feel
for
free.
some reason. Oh man, what's going on? Well, where should I start? I was doing something else on my computer, but should I share my screen to begin with?
Yeah.
To get the most big view, only share screen. Oh, where the frick is that again? Where's the share screen thingy?
For me, it's usually at the bottom to the right of the button you would use to hang up.
Oh,
Share
yeah.
screen. Yeah.
Are you using-
Oh, again, Microsoft. Everything is super logical.
Yeah.
You remember when Skype worked? Fine. Can you see my
Yeah.
screen now?
Yes.
It was like, I remember when Skype actually had the push to talk function and they removed it because Microsoft.
And everything was super logical and everything just worked and it worked fine and you could find everything. But then Microsoft bought it and yeah. Anyways.
Microsoft made the biggest one-time contribution to the channel. So let's not badmouth Microsoft. We like
Yeah.
Microsoft over here.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Thank you,
Lord
Microsoft.
and Savior.
We really appreciate your $500.
Oh, they did. They actually made a donation?
Yes, about $550 actually.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not our biggest sponsor, but it's the biggest one-time contribution. We have sponsors who have been patrons for years at this point, and overall they have contributed more. But shout out to Microsoft for being the biggest one-time contribution. And also shout out to Tail and Mage who are here on the YouTube chat. Hello.
Hello, Tail. Hello, Mage. What was it Microsoft USA or Microsoft? What department of Microsoft?
It was
Do you know?
GitHub, actually. It was.
Oh.
They have this maintainers or contributors month or something like that when they just, I guess, promote the people who work on open source, and they decided to just take this big pile of money. I don't remember how much. It was about $100,000, and split
Alright.
among the people who develop software that they use. And I was
Okay.
in the pile.
Nice.
But the fun thing is that I don't know which project
No,
that they use. So they just send in the money, but they don't tell you why. So I don't know which one of my projects they use, but some projects that I have either created or collaborated on ended up on the GitHub stack or somewhere else in the Microsoft infrastructure, and they decided to throw a contribution. So yeah, really appreciate it. But anyway, yeah, I understand that maybe Skype and Windows is not for everyone. But I kind of like it, actually. Even before they send me money, I like it's okay. I use Visual Studio Code. I have a Windows computer. It works mostly okay. I don't have too big
the
of
I
a
thing
never
is-
problem.
had a Mac.
No, and on my end, I'm not sure what's actually Visual Studio or what's my laptop, because I've noticed that my HP laptop has issues as well, like I mentioned in the chat. And So bitching about Microsoft, I mean, it's fun to do and it's easy to do, but maybe we should go easy on them, like you said.
All right. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's get into the specifics.
Between keyboard and chair.
Sorry?
The problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Yeah, it's... exactly. Well, anyways, I think I cracked the last issue I had, which was that when I needed to reboot my... when the keyboard... This is a known issue with the HP laptops. The keyboard stops working for the weirdest reasons. And the only remedy is to reboot the entire computer, which is can be really annoying sometimes. But it resets Visual Studio to Win34 instead of x64, Win32 instead of x64. So the issue I had with compiling was all that. But so I can compile, but another issue I have, I don't have the audio units thingy. I have the app and I have VST2 and 3.
I think that's expected because audio unit, as far as I can tell, is a Mac only thing. So I don't think you can compile that, let's say that product, that binary on Windows. I think you need a Mac for that.
Ooh. So I can't compile any Mac software whatsoever?
Yeah, and that's usually true. When you are working on languages like C++ that have, let's say, native binaries, you are not compiling something like Java bytecode. So you have a native binary, an executable that will run in the bare metal. It's usually the case that it's hard, if not impossible, to cross-compile, which is to compile a Mac executable on Windows or a Linux executable on Mac and that sort of thing. It's usually very hard. Sometimes it's impossible to do. And to compile things for Macs, I think that you would be against the user agreement with Apple to try to even compile for a Mac.
You know, when I made my plugin with the Maze Studio, I could actually compile for Mac because that's how Maze Studio was built. I think that it was made on top of JUCE, but I think that Maze, the company, actually went to an agreement with Apple, and maybe they added their own audio unit SDK that works with Windows. I don't know. It's all stuffed inside the executable of the editor, so I don't know what is happening. Obviously they want to keep it a secret, but it works. I made some VST3s for Mac and I sent them to my tester and he said that it worked fine.
All right.
So it is possible. It's not it's very hard, but it's possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. What I would recommend, if you need it, like suppose that you have a finished plugin and you don't have a Mac and you would like to produce a binary, what I recommend is that you just rent a Mac. I think that there is like Mac in a box. I don't remember the exact name, but there are these services online that allow you to just rent a computer remotely. You just use your machine to see a Mac environment. So you get that kind of environment, compile your plugin, pay for 1 or 2 hours of a machine, and you're good to go. Ideally, you would have a Mac to be able to test stuff and debug and respond to user problems, but I guess the simplest option, I really recommend against cross-compilation. It's always messy. And what's the point of cross-compiling if you cannot test the binary in the end, right? So it's better to always do things natively.
What I've done is I have a Mac and I have a PC, and I got so many issues with the Mac when I started coding on it. Things started effing up, plugins stopped working, etc., etc. So I just wiped it, and I decided I'm going to use it solely for audio production, so music making, etc., and do everything else on the PC. Ergo coding and administrative things, etc. So I have a Mac that's fully functional, and I'm going to use it, and I want to produce plugins for it. So
and Chris from Air Windows is using a Mac but he does compile his Linux and Windows plugins using virtual machines inside the Mac.
I should have a dedicated Mac for coding, and
Yeah.
it's just that I want to keep it clean because having issues with it and not being able to produce music was quite frustrating. So that's the story. Should we get into coding?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've started with iPlug, as you all know, and I've managed, apart from all the troubleshooting I've been doing for days and days and days, I've managed to produce this. So it's a really simple gain and filter, and it's a standalone app. Now that it's running, I'm having weird echo effects, so I should quit it. But the gain, so this is default. So the gain function is all right here, and I want to add the filter function. So hence me adding knobs here, the K filter, and the parameters for it. Value is the parameters for it. But initializing the variable, is that here? Enum.
Let's see. I guess the K filter variable you want there.
Yeah.
But this is just, I guess, a value between perhaps 0 and 100, that sort of thing.
Because does this just initialize the knobs on the interface, or?
I think so. I think that this is the number that the user controls, and then from that you would derive maybe other things like a cutoff frequency, maybe I don't know. It depends on what you want the user to control. If you want the user to control a number between 0 and 1, very Air Windows style, then the K filter would be between 0 and 1. Maybe you want the user to directly control a frequency. So you would perhaps give a number between 20 and 20,000. But that would be just the coefficient, the parameter. The parameter that the user is going to select. From that, you would need to compute things like filter coefficients and so on.
So Constantine, Knum presets, has that got anything to do with, do I need to up that number to 2 or anything? Because it's 2.
I don't think so. I'm not sure because I don't know iPlug that well, but it seems to me like the presets is just... So if you had a bunch of filters, you would maybe have presets for things like guitars and vocals and drums. So that, I think that's what this is about.
All right. So where do I initialize a variable? So if I want to have a filter function here, just a simple 6 dB low pass.
Oh, hang on. Go back to the header file because Theo has some interesting input here on the chat.
All right.
What he's saying is that the enumeration is not specifying like initial values or not even the range. This enumeration that we see between lines 9 and 11, this is just the identifiers for the parameters. So these are just numbers that need to be different, but they usually start with like 0 and then 1 and 2 and 3 and so on.
Okay.
So the line 10 should be K filter equals to 1, because the point is that this is just an identifier for this parameter. And I guess this number 1 will be used internally by iPlug in different ways, but you don't want to set this to any other number. I guess it doesn't hurt if you set it to a different number, because as long as the numbers are different, it's okay, but it is better to just have sequential numbers.
Those numbers could stay also blank, and the compiler will generate it for you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was even thinking that you probably don't want to use a bare enum, but use an enum class. But then again, this came with the boilerplate, so I think they may have reasons to do it this way. Better not touch it, right? What do you think, Cwits?
I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Because I also was going to ask it. In the JUCE code, JUCE code, we zeroed out values, sort of initialized the 0 value. Is that what we're doing here?
I don't think so. I think that what these lines are doing is similar to... So you have been following my JSFX streams and you know how we declare those data structures. I guess what they're doing here is similar. They're just defining a data structure. They're not creating an instance of the data structure. They're just defining a data structure and they're saying this data structure is one of the following, right? It's not a data structure with a bunch of fields put together. No, it's just I guess a bunch of options. Is it the gain knob, or is it the filter knob, or is it this, or is it that? So these are just indices into a data structure that happens to have this weird behavior where you have different variants. That's my understanding anyway. And Tail is confirming on the chat what Cwits said and what my intuition was also saying, that you can leave out the numbers and then implicitly and by default, the C++ compiler will fill in the blanks for you with 0 and 1 and 2 and so on. So
okay,
it seems like the boilerplate for iPlug is a bit redundant there. But I don't know. I guess I personally would just follow their style until I know better. So I would probably just let it be k gain equals 0, k filter equals 1.
Okay. Maybe I should. So in Visual Studio, is this a sets variable or let's just see. So we're looking for e-params. Is Tail using iPlug? I don't remember.
Last time we talked to him, he was using iPlug 1 way back. And then he started doing his own modifications to iPlug. So he has his own fork, which is available on GitHub for people who want to use it. And then Ollie Larkin also started doing his own thing. So at this point, iPlug 2 and the thing that Tail uses are different. They came from the same heritage, but they're different.
So, but Tail has a basic knowledge of iPlug.
I would guess that the basics are the same since iPlug 1. I'm not sure what has changed in iPlug 2, but I guess the notion of parameters probably has been there since the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So where do I start making a variable for the filter?
Well, first of all, I think we need to double check how that knob is working, in the sense that not the placement of the knob on the screen, because that is what line 23 is doing, and that's working great. But what I would be interested in is the range of the knob and the steps you can take in the knob. And I suppose
the range is 0 to 1.
Oh, okay. Easy enough. And I think that you would like to map this 0 to 1 into the, I guess, is this filter knob, is it the cutoff frequency? Is it the, what is this knob exactly?
I was thinking of just doing a regular low pass, 60 below pass, the ones with a, was it plus, in JSFX it would be SPL 0 plus equals weight times a variable times or minus I don't remember. Hang on.
No, but I think I know what you mean. So Do you think that this variable
I mean.
between 0 and 1 is just going to be literally the coefficient that you multiply by, or do you think it should be the cutoff frequency?
Yeah, I'm not looking to like make an accurate filter with the exact frequencies and do the math for that. I just want to get it sort of initially working, and then set the variable, get the low pass filter working, and then work from that and do my own stuff on it. So I'm stuck at square one. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the filter variable, the filter knob, is a value between 0 and 1 that you will just use straight away. You will not need to convert this number between 0 and 1 into a frequency or into filter coefficients. This is already the filter coefficient, which simplifies a lot of things. Great. So the next thing that I can imagine we will need is we need to know what the previous input was, right? Because the way that this works is you take the previous input, you multiply by the filter coefficient, you take the current input, you multiply by 1 minus the filter coefficient, and you add. So we need to know what was the previous input. And in JSFX, we would need to do some handstanding to get a hold of a previous value. And in iPlug, it may seem like we don't have to do that, but I think we will actually need to do it anyway. The thing is, in JSFX, we just get one moment in time in the sample section. We just have the samples for multiple channels at that point in time. But that's not the concept that we work with in iPlug. What we work with is an array.
Some nice guitar music? Sorry,
what's that, Cwits?
Are we hearing some nice guitar music?
I don't hear any.
No.
Is it only mine? Oh, okay. Sorry.
You had another tab opened?
Yeah. So it was very strange.
What I was explaining is in JSFX, when you have that code open there, the sample section runs with just one moment in time. So we have access to the samples for that moment in time. But in iPlug, we actually receive a whole block of inputs. So it may seem as though, because we have a whole block of inputs, when we do on line 39, for instance, inputs of that given channel for a given frame, that's what the S is, it's the frame. We could just say inputs of C, so the same channel, and S minus 1. That would give us the previous input. So we are working with a whole block of inputs, a bunch of samples, and we can straight away just look at the previous one. So with that in mind, it may seem like you can just go ahead and use inputs of C of S minus 1 as the previous sample. But I don't think it's that simple, because think of what happens in the boundary between the end of the block and the start of the next block. In that case, your inputs, I guess on the start of the next block, your inputs are going to be like the sample that just arrived, but you will have forgotten, you will have lost the previous sample with respect to that. Do you see what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
Somewhat. I'm not like I'm kind of 70% with you, but go on.
I guess here is one idea. Why don't we implement the wrong thing first to see how it looks, and then maybe you will be able to hear the problem. Because I know it's a problem in theory. I suppose it will be a problem in practice, but it would be fun to listen to it. So let's implement this the wrong way first.
Sure.
Then we will get into the territory of remembering inputs across blocks. So you have right there the formula that you want to use, and that is the comment on line 45. And let's translate these names like SPL0 into the names we use in iPlug. So to begin with, SPL0 in JSFX is the sample for the left channel, channel 0. And that's one sample, one moment in time. So in our case here in iPlug, we are not talking about channel 0, we are just talking about channel C. We have a generalization, we have a loop. But SPL0, I guess in this case, would be inputs of C of S. Right, that's what it is. It is the current sample we are looking at. And well, I guess it actually depends if we are going to be specific about this. If the SPL0 appears to the left-hand side of the equal sign, then it's actually the outputs, right? We are writing to that. So I guess it's outputs of C of S. So you already have that. Line 39 is already doing that. It's already saying outputs of C of S. And that's what SPL0 on the left-hand side of the equal sign stands for.
And it's processing all the samples and all the channels in that block.
Yeah, exactly. And then to the right, we have this variable N0. Now, in JSFX, we can get away with just making variables up and they start existing as soon as we use them. And they all begin with 0. So pretty convenient. But here, we don't have that kind of facility. We have to declare our variables. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's declare a variable called N0, and it will have samples in it. So I guess it will be of the sample type. So can you declare a variable? It will not be a constant variable, but it will be a variable outside the loop. So I guess after line 33, you can declare a variable by just saying something like sample space N0.
Don't I need a double or a constant? Not a constant, but it needs to be a double, or?
It doesn't need to be a double and it doesn't need to be a float. It needs to be of the sample type. Sample is a type. As you can see on line 29, sample is a type. And I suppose that this type will stand for float or for double, depending on how the plugin is instantiated. I think it's part of the iPlug framework.
Yeah, this something pops up. So iPlug constants.h namespace iPlug.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So just hit the spacebar, and
cool.
N0 is the name of your variable.
In brackets?
No, just N0, right?
N0.
That's the name of the variable on line 46. And it's always a nice idea to initialize the variables that we declare, because unlike JSFX, C++ may or may not initialize this variable for us. So I guess that's already a tricky proposition. How do we initialize N0? We could just say 0 here, but we know that it should persist across blocks. So we already know that this is not going to work out 100%. But anyway, let's start with a 0 there. And then the semicolon, which is super important. And let's get to the YouTube chat, because Tail is telling us things and Mage is also telling us things. So let's see what they have to say. Tail is saying, if you can leave out the numbers, then C++ would... we already went over that. He said, by the way, are both parameters initialized via init double or similar? I don't know. I don't know how are these things initialized actually. Can you scroll up so we can see the start of the code?
By the way, is this important, this error message? Clang format file.
Clang format, or is it Clang? I don't know. I always see this written down in never spoken.
No, I'm just ignoring it. Oh.
I didn't read it.
Oh, sorry. There's a delay. We'll just go ahead. Oh, scroll up. Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. You have line 9 that is initializing the filter with init double. So that answers your question, Tail. We didn't see this part of the code, but it's there. So we know that there is an initialization for the K filter, and it goes from, I suppose, from 0 to 1 in steps of 0.1, and the default is 1. I think that's what this is. Mm-hmm. So fair enough, it is initialized. And Mage says, when s equals to 0 at the start of the next block, then s minus 1 is an underflow. Exactly, that's what I am getting at. And we know that this problem will come up, but I guess let's write the wrong code first and then fix it. And we'll also see what happens. And Tail is saying it could crash, or it might just sound bad. I think it will not crash, because I will try to help Bo write the code that does the bounce checking. So we will not be trying to access invalid memory, but we will be doing the wrong thing for one sample or the first sample on every block. And the thing that should carry on, and 0 should carry on across blocks, it's not being carried on across blocks. It will be reset every block. So the filter will just sound wrong. Anyway, okay. Mage is saying naughty. Exactly. We are being naughty here first. Right. So, yeah, how about we, since this is in our headspace, how about we just fix this real quick? So the way I think about fixing it is really simple. We see on line 38, where we say s equals 0. That means that we are talking about the first sample in the block, right? It's the sample 0 in the block. And we will need to be able to talk about the previous sample in the block, but we cannot talk about the previous sample with respect to the first. It's not there. It's an underflow. So how about we say int s equals 1 for now, and let's leave ourselves a big warning that we need to fix this. But change the 0 to a 1. And what this will do is it will start the processing not on the first, but on the second sample in the block. And when we do that, we do have access to the previous one, and no underflows will happen. So the filter will sound weird, but we will not crash the whole thing. Right, so let's continue. How about you, perhaps let's just copy and paste the formula. I'm thinking about, yeah, let's just copy and paste the formula in the right place and then change the variables accordingly. So how about you go to line 47, grab the whole thing in parentheses and paste it on the right of the equal sign on line 41.
Nope. Disable formatting via clang.
Yeah, disable that, because what's happening is it's trying to format the file for you. It's trying to like put spaces in the right places and indent everything, but for whatever reason the formatter is not working. And
oh man, where is this? Enable Clang format support. Is this the one?
Maybe.
Oh, it did paste.
Yeah.
Paste.
Well, if If it refused to paste, then we would be in a bad scenario. Anyway, now let's just translate this. N0 is N0. I think that we need the open parens to the left of N0, just like there was one in line 47.
Okay. To separate it from the gain?
No, just because I want to have the formula exactly what as it was. Assuming that the JSFX version worked, this will work as well.
Yeah.
I'm not even trying to reason about how the line works. I'm just translating it from JSFX to C++. Then SPL0, we know what that looks like. It is the thing that you have to the right of the semicolon. It is the inputs of C of S.
Brackets. I need to type inputs as well, right?
Yeah, you can also just copy and paste because it's right there. But yeah, you can type it in if you want.
I should have copied it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the minus N0, that's all good. The times weight, we are now calling the weight filter. That's the name of the variable in line 32. So change that to filter. And I guess I was actually wrong. We are not looking at the previous sample. We are just looking at the previous result of the filter. So we are just looking at N0, which means we can go back to line 39 and change this back to a 0. We will not have an underflow. We are not looking at S of minus inputs of S minus 1. We are not doing that. And you can remove the to-do as well. Anyway, and then the whole thing that is in parentheses, you want to multiply by gain because we want the gain knob to still work.
And then I should remove the inputs, right?
Yeah.
Because that's...
Yeah, that's perfect. So I think that with that, we have translated the JSFX into C++, and I think that the filter knob will do something to the audio, but I think it will sound weird. Do you want to try it?
Sure. Let's hope nothing crashes. One error. Description syntax. One parenthesis too much.
Perhaps.
Line 40. If I double click this.
Yeah, it seems like it because on line 46 we only had 2 closing parens.
My greasy fingers. So let's see what this does. Yeah, it's actually cutting out.
Awesome.
It's kind of distorted. So it's not working as intended. Or as intended as in writing the wrong code, I guess.
Yeah, so is it easy for you to route the audio out of the plugin and into Skype so that we can hear the glitches just for fun?
Ooh, Windows. I need support. Windows.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, you can ask anything, Cwits.
Is it okay? Okay, I see that the sample N0 is assigning. Okay, then it's fine. I was thinking that these variables are staying 0 all the time.
Yeah, no, there is a sneaky plus equals on line 40.
Yeah,
and that's why I just wanted to copy and paste the line and translate it step by step, because if it was me, I would need to tease these things apart to make sense of it, because this line is heavy. It's doing a lot. It's doing more than I can reason about. Anyway, it seems to be doing something, and if it is complicated to route this audio to Skype, then just let's continue then and fix this.
I wouldn't know how to do it. That's the thing. I don't know if it's complicated.
Yeah,
Fotis, you're a Windows guy.
Let's not get into that. There are ways of routing audio between software on Windows, but it takes some getting used to, and it takes you have to install some stuff for that work. So let's not do that.
Yeah, Asia for all.
Let's just trust that it is glitchy, and we know it is glitchy because we are resetting N0 on every block. That's not how it's supposed to work. So I think that a quick and dirty solution for this is to just turn this N0 that is currently a local variable. It's a variable that exists within the scope of process block. Let's just change this into a member variable of the iPlug fudge class. And the way we can do that is by cutting. Let's remove the line 34, but cut. Don't just delete, cut, because we'll paste it elsewhere. So just go to line 34 and cut that out of there. And then let's go to the header file and find the place where we declare this class, which is really easy. It's right there, starting on line 17. And we want this, we probably want this to be a private variable. So
within the curly brackets?
Yeah, on line 24, add a new line, and then say private column. No, on after the end if.
After the end. Okay.
Yeah, this end if stuff is there is a link that explains this, but it is none of our concern now. We want to make sure that this variable exists, so let's just have a block. Let's have this outside the if macro. Anyway, so you say private column, new line. No, it's the punctuation, really. Just like on line 19, you see public column. You want to say private column.
colon. Okay, sorry.
And then on the next line, paste the line that we cut on the other file. Yeah, you probably want to give a new line there just to make things look better. But anyway, the point is that now this variable is member variable, which means that this variable exists in the scope, not of a function call, it exists in the scope of the iPlug fudge object, which also means that it will be initialized to 0 when we initialize the plugin, but then this variable will be kept around across runs of the process block function.
All right.
And then with that, the filter should sound okay now. Can you compile and give that a try?
Sure.
And meanwhile, we have Oscar STEM Bridge Fun on the chat. Hello, Oscar STEM Bridge Fun. And they say, hey, you all, are you getting enough money to keep Kill the Newsletter alive? Yeah, Kill the Newsletter is here for the stay. For people who don't know, I have this service called Kill the Newsletter. It's a website that you can go to and create an inbox, an email inbox to receive newsletters, and then newsletters become Atom feed entries. So that's for when you want to sign up for a newsletter, but you don't want to receive emails. You want to read on an Atom reader like Feedly. And I have been running that for what, like 8 years at this point. And that's what Kill the Newsletter is. And if I'm getting enough money to keep Kill the Newsletter alive, yeah, we are keeping it alive. And there are people who are generous and contribute to Kill the Newsletter, but even if no one contributed, I would be paying it out of pocket. And yeah, they say that they tried and it works like a charm. It does work like a charm. It has been working like a charm for almost 10 years at this point. And people who want to contribute to this should go to the link in the description and sign up for Patreon or send some PayPal or Bitcoin, that sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, Kill the Newsletter. It's probably my most popular project, even though I don't talk about it a whole lot on the streams anymore. All right. So, how does it sound, Bo?
Distortion is gone and it's filtering, so working.
Awesome.
It's working. It's doing what it says on the tin. Although there's a strong emphasis. Oh God, I gotta kill this. The echo is bothering. There's a strong emphasis on the left channel. Which it's...
Of course. So the problem here is we have only 1 and 0 for all channels. So when we start processing channel 1, we are overwriting N0 from channel 0. So when we are processing the right channel, the left channel is it's broken. So we don't want to have just 1 and 0. We want to have 1 and 0 per channel. And that means that N0 should not be just a plain variable. It should be maybe an array, maybe a vector. There are different ways of going about this, but I think that this may be the perfect homework for you. I can see some ways out of this. The first is to just say, forget about multiple channels. My plugin is stereo. So let's not have a loop like in line 39, where we loop over the channels. Let's not do that. Let's just copy and paste line 40 and replace the C, that stands for channel, with 0 and then with 1. So we end up with 2 identical lines, except for it will read outputs of 0 and then outputs of 1 instead of outputs of C. And
because I got a question regarding this. If this is a set variable and C, that array is the channels. So if I type 1 or 2 here, that's the left and right. Same with this one.
Don't type 1 and 2, type 0 and 1, but yes.
0 and 1, yeah, sorry. And this for loop just sets the number of channels to as many number of channels as the plugin is using, or as the project is using, right?
Yes.
Like the ones that you used in a lot of your JSFX.
Yeah.
So, but another thing that pops up in my head is that, so S, if I sort of put S minus 1, like you mentioned, within brackets, would that be a sample back in time?
Yes, because you have this array, you have this chunk of memory where all your samples are in sequence. So if you say S minus 1, you're saying go back 1 slot and find the previous one.
So this is more like a regular array that JSFX is not, because the arrays in JSFX are weird, aren't they?
Well, they are a bit weirder, but they end up being just a chunk of memory, pretty similar to what we have here. So we would write code that is very similar in JSFX if we are dealing with arrays. Now, so I guess the relatively easy solution is to just forego multi-channel and copy and paste the line twice. But I don't like that solution, but it is the easiest. The second solution I can think of is N0. And I should say, if you do that, if you do this copy and paste approach, you will want to have N0 left and N0 right. You want to have 2 variables, because that's the point, right? The entire issue is that we are overwriting N0 when we shouldn't, because we are just have 1 and 0 for all channels. So you would have N0 left, N0 right, and you would need to change the header file accordingly. But the better solution, in my understanding, the better solution is to just have an array or vector of N0s, 1 per channel. And then you would need to index into this with C. So you would not say just N0, you would say N0 of C. So it would read N0 open square bracket, C close square bracket. It becomes an array or a vector. And that's the perfect opportunity for you to learn more about how arrays and vectors work. And I would recommend you just pessimistically allocate like 64 slots, because what plugin host allows for more than 64 channels? None. So just allocate 64 slots in this array or vector, and then learn about arrays and vectors in C++ and see how they will work for you.
Vector is a two-dimensional array, isn't it?
No, a vector is a fancy array that knows how to resize itself. So if you need to, perhaps you don't know ahead of time how many channels you have, you allocate 64 and someone ends up wanting more, a vector would know how to resize itself. You just add more data and it says, okay, I'll take it. And the array, if you tried to access data, it would say, no, out of bounds. And in the best case, it would crash. In the worst case, it would do something random and crazy.
Okay, I see.
Yep.
I'm thinking out loud here. If I took like inputs C and S within brackets and to added, so that plus S in brackets, S minus 1 in brackets times the filter factor, wouldn't that work the same way as this does? See what I'm getting at?
I don't think you would want inputs of S-1. You probably would want outputs of S-1 because N0 is not the input. It is the result of the filter. So it's really the output.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's true. So I would... I'm going to try that as well.
Yeah, and the outputs have also the gain, which could interact weirdly. So perhaps having an array of N0s is better for you.
Okay. Sure. I actually try and I looked at the iPlug forums and the GitHub. I couldn't find like a simple 6 dB low pass filter. Or an example of it, but I guess there should be one.
Well, you're making one.
Yeah. Martin Fink, we discussed this on the chat, on the Discord chat. He has a tutorial, but it's for the earlier version of iPlug. But he is making a synthesizer and he's making filters for the synthesizer, etc. So I was thinking of following that and see if I can implement it for the iPlug too. That could be a good, valuable teaching experience, learning experience. Are we sort of done with this?
Yeah, I think that you made progress. You have homework. I think that it is good. Do you have more things that you would like to show? I see you have a mock-up of the design of the plugin.
Yeah. So one of the better upsides with iPlug that I discovered once I started using it is that there's a dedicated design software for it that produces code. And I was thinking that maybe at some point we could try and implement this code in a regular, in one of the plugins that I've made. And there's also a separate knob designer, which is really fun. That has this...
So this iPlug designer thing, is it going to spit out some C++ boilerplate for you?
Yeah. It's... Where is it? View roller. Generate source code. So it produces code for you.
Nice.
And I guess you just copy paste this in the correct position.
Okay.
Or in a separate document, in a separate file.
Okay.
And
looking good.
Then where did the knobs to? There's also a knob studio. Where the frick did that go? Clean up fonts. No. Oh yeah, it refused to start. Yeah. It refused to boot. Sorry. There's also a separate design software for designing knobs, which is like really fun. Plus, there's this huge bank of knobs that people have designed for iPlug. So that's cool.
Nice.
So I'm done. Thank you very much, everyone in the chat that's helped out, and thank you, Leandro.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bo, for the update, and good luck with array thing. So. yeah, let's move on to either Cwits or Fotis.
Yeah, I am actually building something right now. Cwits, do you want to go first?
I'm also actually building something
Okay.
right now.
I do have something to show. I made another JSFX port of a Windows plugin,
Oh, cool.
and I also created my own mutation of it.
That isn't clear.
But after we're done, I want to talk about HISE. And while you and Bo were working, I was actually building this whole time and failing. But I think I found the problem. And while it does its job, I'm going to share my screen and show my Reaper. And I'm going to show what I did with that Air Windows plugin. And also I'm gonna share my sound, and I'm sharing my whole monitor. Yes. So let's go study group. This is these tracks are actually both mine. Wait, I can't see my. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So now you can see everything, right?
Yes.
And you can hear the song that I created for. It's a little bit loud. So this is what I did. I'm going to need some JSFX help, but I should save it for the next meeting because the HISE problem that I have right now is actually quite bigger and more important. So this is my port of tape. It actually wasn't that hard because Mark had already ported to tape 6, which is a more complicated, more feature-filled version of tape. Tape is actually a stripped-down version of to tape 6. It only has 2 knobs, so it wasn't that difficult to port it. And this is what it does. It has 2 knobs. The first is called slam, and the other one is called head bump. I should edit it because VST does have some limitations to the parameter names, but JSFX has not. In fact, let's do it right now. Bump. There you go. JSFX is beautiful. So with the slam function, you're applying a tape saturation. If you go to the inverse, it's a bit weird. It's a bit like inverse compression or saturation, I would call it, something like that. And head bump is actually applying, I'm going to show it in the trusty EQ curve analyzer. Sorry. So I'm going to go all the way up to 10 Hertz. And head bump is applying a very subtle bass boost. It can cause DC offset problems, so you might want to have a DC offset remover handy like this one from Chokehold. Leandro, you said that you made a DC offset remover. I think you only made a DC offset creator.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, wasn't it?
Oh.
I thought we were talking about just adding DC offsets, because sometimes when you're testing things that can come in handy, but a DC filter comes with Reaper. I guess there is also this one you're looking at, but there is a DC filter in the stock JSFX. This
is the same one, but this user called Chokehold. This is not in Repack. You have to get it from their GitHub account here. Basically, Chokehold made some modifications so you can process multi-channel material.
Oh, I see.
And this is how it looks like if I apply it directly after tape. Boom. You see that it filtered out anything in these frequencies. Let's do it again in case. Boom, boom. Good.
Nice.
So the thing I did, the mutation, I'm really interested in creating weird distortion plugins. And one way of doing it is simply taking a JSFX and changing values here and there. I don't remember what I changed. I think
It's the code equivalent of circuit bending.
exactly. I bent the code. So I named it tape fringe. I just wanted a word that sounded extreme, like a bow used fudge. So let's compare the two. I'm going to, with the low volume, but I'm going to slam both. So this is how tape sounds when cranked up the slam. And this is fringe turned up. Yeah, it's much harsher, but I already used it in one of my songs recently, so it's good. It feels nice when you use your own plugins or plugin mutations to your own music. It does give it a kind of personal vibe to it. I don't know what it is.
It's very much a satisfaction kind of thing. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
But what exactly did you bend on the code?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but let's see. We can compare the two if you want. Yes, I can have both here. Let's do this. Boop, boop. Can this actually be disabled? Or I can open both in a text editor if you prefer.
Yeah, I think that perhaps if you don't want to do this, it's fine. But I think that the best way to go about this would be to open your effects folder in Visual Studio Code, then compare the files there, because it is able to just show the differences.
Oh, Notepad++ actually does have this same function.
There you go.
So I'm gonna do that instead. I love Notepad++. Reaper roaming. Yeah, effects. And yes, so this is the HISE manual. We're going to look at it later. So this is tape and tape fringe. And we're going to set first to compare and then compare. So obviously that change we did in the slider is the one that comes first. But then I think it was in the sample. No, there it is. Yeah, it's kind of hard to read with this color, but now you can see the change values in orange. So that's cool.
Okay. You fiddled with numbers.
Yeah, I fiddled exactly. I did the circuit bending. So this is the tape softening algorithm that Chris created. It rolls off some of the highs in a bit of a soft distortion way, like a soft clip kind of, but non-linear. And what I did was change the values from 1 to 115.
When I see this code and I see all the magic numbers and the formulas, I'm like, oh my god, what's happening here?
Yeah.
That's half pi, 1.56, isn't it?
Oh, maybe it is, actually.
I think it's half pi.
Mm.
And now it's an entire pi and much more.
Yeah. It has all the pi's. By the way, I'm Greek, so I can actually type the letter pi. Ha ha ha. There you go. There's a bunch of pi's for you. Did I change anything else? No, I think it was just that value. Yeah. But yeah, just by circuit bending those codes, I was actually able to make a harsher, gnarlier
add a slider to it, man. Dude, add a slider. So you can change the value.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can actually...
And then the slider will be how many pies you want.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
And call it pi.
I'm going to change it from soften to harden. So let's turn this off. This was my progress so far. And let's see if this thing is... Oh, actually, I'm going to tell you what I was doing while Bo and Leandro were working their magic. Sorry that I wasn't paying attention, but this thing was really bugging me. So HISE, first off, I wanted to show you a few things of what HISE is and a few examples of what you can make with it from other companies that have used it. So let's get this out of the way while this thing is generating code. Yeah, I'm actually building the plugin one version and not the standalone. It gives you two producer projects, HISE.audio. So HISE is a framework that is built on top of JUCE. So it's literally a framework within a framework. And it allows you to create sample instrument VSTs. It actually has a lot in common with the full version of Contact. But the cool thing about it is that it's obviously open source. And the latest stable edition came out in 2018, but the latest build, the development version, is still being updated to this day. And you can find it here by going to the develop. And the creator, Christoph Hart, actually actually encourages using this instead of the stable one because it has a lot of features that are up to date. And so what I want to make with HISE is what I wanted to do all this time was my drum plugin. I actually wanted to create the first version of my drum plugin with HISE, but I had no idea what to do with JUCE or with Visual Studio, so I just stuck with Maze Studio. But now that you guys have helped me understand so much about building and how to use Producer, etc., I actually wanted to revisit it and see what I can do with it now with this added knowledge. So HISE has a few peculiar things. One optional dependency is created by Intel, and it's called the Intel. What's its name? Sorry. It's not required. Oh, I can actually show the manual here. The Intel Performance Primitives. If you want to download it, a person on the HISE forum has created a handy little application, which is this one. And if you download it, I didn't install it yet. I just found about this thing. Where is it? Oh, yeah. So this is a standalone thing. So what it does is it generates download links so you can download the version of IPP that you need. And what it does, it increases the performance of the convolution reverb. But when I was building a project, some projects were looking for it, even though it was optional. But the thing is that I was doing a huge mistake, and that was I didn't extract the folders in the SDK, because HISE does come with a Azure SDK and VST3 SDK, its own versions, in fact, but it's password protected, and I don't know if the developers want me to say the secret. If you want, you can find it yourself in the HISE forums. I'm not going to show it. But now that I did it, I'm building again. Oh, we're seeing a warning here.
Why are they doing this? They are making people jump through hoops because of the licenses, and they're not supposed to share the SDK, but they are putting it behind a password? Is that what this is about?
Probably. So you can see it's maybe it's their own stripped down versions of the SDK. And you can see they're quite old, actually. See, this is from 2016. And the Azure is from 2013. It's weird, but this is the README that they made. But whatever. So this is also it comes with its own producer, which is this one. It's an older version, but it's pre-configured, I think. So I thought I would use this instead of the latest producer, because I did use it the latest producer, and I had problems, and I thought that was the reason. But if it fails, I'm going to use the newest producer because I have run out of ideas. This is what it's doing so far. Oh, actually, it hasn't gone so far ever before, so that's a good sign. I think my brother helped me build a very early version of HISE years ago, but I couldn't export plugins with it. It was weird, maybe because of this whole SDK thing. But I'm hopeful. So now I'm going to give you an idea of what you can create with HISE and why I'm interested in using it. And maybe you will find it interesting as well. I also found a tutorial by David Healy on his Patreon. I had forgotten about this video, and I guess this is now my homework. Well, it's gonna load. But this is a bit outdated, as you can see. But this is how I found how to do this extraction, I think. Reaper is loading. Yes, I'm doing 1,000 things at once. So this is the video. I'm going to post the link on the chat. And of course, I'm going to post the GitHub link of HISE. So Leandro can add this on the study group, the study group notes. Is Reaper loading? I hope it is. Let's check. Oh yeah, it is here. So HISE, chances are some of you may have plugins that were created with HISE. You can check out the sample folder and see if the extensions are in CH1 extension, which is a compressed version of their own sample format, which is called HR1, HISE Resources 1. And Christoph made actually his own lossless audio compressor, like a FLAC, but he calls his own HLAC based on his own name, Christoph Hart. So, yeah. Is it stuck? Is it working? No, it seems it's working. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't. It gives me warnings, but it gives me errors. That's a good sign, right?
It is a good sign, and typically the first time you build something, it is slow.
Yeah,
for any non-trivial project, it will be slow. The subsequent builds will be faster because it will be able to reuse work and just recompile and relink things that have changed.
Yeah, especially these things. Look at all these objects.
Yeah.
If I go to this and click rebuild, hopefully, what is the difference between build and rebuild? I never understood.
Well, I don't know, but I would suppose it is what we were talking about, where the rebuild would just reuse stuff. It would reuse previous work when the previous work is still valid. So maybe you didn't change a couple lines of code in a file, so it can reuse that work from having compiled those lines of code. And then build would perhaps build from scratch.
From scratch, yeah, it would delete all the things.
But basically it's working in opposite way. I don't know how it works in the Visual Studio, but basically when you're using rebuild, it rebuilds whole project from scratch. Basically.
So I guess I'll use this one.
Okay. I think I would prefer names like incremental build and build from scratch or something, but that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't. Anyway, so this is.
Is this a good time to say Microsoft?
Yeah. It doesn't function. Now, one of those Mac purists would say this is why the logic DAW only exists in Mac, because it uses logic. There was a t-shirt that said, I'm an atheist producer. I use logic and reason. No offense to religious people, who are watching this. But anyway, so this is the most basic plugin that you can create from a company called Shout Audio. It's called Bold. And it's a very simple sampler with 4 effects. I think this thing was created for charity. If you buy this plugin, I'll proceed to go to charity. And it has a few drum sounds. Oh, yeah, this is the menu, and you can see the names. It was created by 2 female producers, Dress Agent Bad Snacks. Should I turn it down? Yes, it's very loud.
And this is a sampler that was created using that framework.
Yeah, yeah. And you have some vocals, some violin chords. I actually did a challenge. I created some tracks using only this plugin because it has a lot of stuff. It has let's go to the synths. It could benefit from a drop-down menu. Let's see, where are the synths? Oh yeah, the keys. No, it's oh yeah. And now you have some extra controls. You have the attack and release.
There is one thing that I don't fully understand. Why do people create standalone plugins instead of creating libraries for something like Sforzando and I guess Decent Sampler, though I know you don't actually like Decent Sampler, but anyway, why do people create standalone plugins? They want some controls that wouldn't be possible in other plugins, or they just want their own brand? What's that about?
Well, I have 2 questions, 2 answers. The first is this, because it gives you a set of effects that you can tweak yourself in C++. If you're Sforzando does have some effects, but it's a bit harder to implement and not very flexible. There is, I think, a convolution reverb, but it's not open source. It's proprietary, and so you can't create an instrument for FISE, which is the open source version. A similar, and not Decent Sampler either. Decent Sampler, I think, doesn't have any effects at all. And the second answer is the other thing I'm going to show you, and that's something that is on the other side of the spectrum, and I think this is going to answer all of your questions, okay? So are you ready for Mandala? So first things first, you can see that my cursor is changing. Let's load this a sample from the library. Some of the this thing is like Contact in that it's a player and you load sample libraries inside it. And these are the compressed files with the sounds, and these are the HR1 files, which are like the NKI files in Contact, or like the SFZ files in Sforzando. They contain the mappings. So let's load this thing. And now it asks me, okay, this is a bit cumbersome, but let's do it. At least it's looking for a folder, not a sample. And it's loading. They're a bit big. So here is my library, and let's load the piano. So mantra, they don't use an A in Mandala by mantra. What I'm going to call them mantra for simplicity's sake. They are making some very weird instruments, even from ordinary sounds like a piano or a guitar. They're gonna take those sounds and they're gonna do freakish stuff with it. So let's load this. I don't remember this patch, but okay. Let's see if it works. Can you hear it?
Yes.
It's a bit low in volume. bump it a bit because it has a... So Leandro asked, why make an plugin and not... because I don't want to press the buttons, I'm going to create a simple MIDI pattern here. And I'm going to make it a bit slow, and I'm going to loop it. So let's go. No, that's not it. So you have these three modulators that are changing the sound, and I have no idea how they do it. Also, you have a routing matrix. It has a lot of functions that I haven't explored yet.
Okay, so I guess
in
summary, the answer is these other environments like Sforzando and Contact, they are mostly for playing the samples. Yeah, and if you want to go beyond that and mangle with the playing of the samples, or maybe just have regular effects like reverbs and that kind of thing, there is some pre-packaged effects in these environments, but if you want to go beyond them, then you have to do your own plugin.
Yeah, and Contact is the closest thing. No, actually, HISE is the closest thing to Contact, because Contact does have its own scripting language, and you can do very advanced things like this one. But Contact does have its own limitations. For example, the GUI. You can't have a resizable GUI in Contact, and not here either. But at least they can make it in their own size. Sorry.
At least they would have control over the environment to make that happen.
And also HISE is open source, like I said a million times. But yeah, I created an arpeggiator. It's ugly, but it works. And also you can layer, you can have your own mixer, equalizers.
And for your plugin, the drums plugin, what do you have in mind beyond just playing samples?
First, I want to make, you know that my plugin is a multi-microphone. It has 5 mics. And I want to create something like this, like the mixer. I want you to be able to mute or solo the individual microphones. And also you can, to be able to use multiple outputs. That is possible with my other plugin as well. And HISE does have a multi-channel output. I'm going to do this later, but first I want to... Oh, did it build? Can I scream? Can I... What? It built! Oh my god.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So please let me test this out real quick. I'm going to actually close and... Can I? Oh yeah, I'm gonna to just, please bear with me. I'm going to add the path of the VST because I don't want to move this thing. Maybe it has dependencies. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I'll just do it for. Oh come on! Oh wait, I forgot. You can actually type in the path. Sorry. Rescan. New.
It could take.
Oh, there it is. No, it doesn't.
You have over 2,000 plugins?
Yeah, don't ask.
Yeah, here on the chat, Mage is saying my contact library addiction requires adding a new 4 terabyte SSD every quarter.
Oh my god. There it is.
How many plugins do you have on your plugin library, Mage? Do you have thousands like Fotis?
Do you want to create a new project? The project is a folder that contains all external files needed for example. Okay.
It opened.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's create a temporary folder. Let's call it.
If I may interject, that's one of the things that I did when I wiped out the Mac. I got rid of a lot of plugins that I never used.
Oh, nice. Wait, sorry for that, Bob, but I liked that function. It actually told me I forgot to create a temp folder, and it said that folder is not empty. Please choose another one, and I will. So nice. That is a good function.
You have a hard drive named to do.
Yeah, exactly. Good catch. So it seems to be functional, and it also has a standalone app. I'm going to try to build that as well. Oh, there you go. There's the piano. So
Nice.
you can see it has many similarities with Contact Editor. It's not resizable, is it? Oh, wait.
It seems to be, actually, because when you
it
resize, the scroll bars moved.
Yeah, it is. It is resizable.
From the 2,000 and some plugins that you have, how many do you actually use?
Probably 100.
Fair.
Basically, I use the other one, but in some weird sound design in experiments, I actually use all of them. I like a grab bag, like, hey, I haven't used this in a while, and then I throw it in just so I can destroy a sample. So everything actually has its use. But for normal everyday use, basically Air Windows has obliterated my need for external other plugins. And I have my samplers like Expand or Sforzando or Contact or whatever. But maybe with HISE, I can actually create my own dream sampler and just forget about everything else. But yeah, let's take a look at what's happening here. Oh my God. I think this was actually from the first time I tried to create my drum plugin. Maybe it exists in a temporary folder somewhere in my Windows installation, and it found it. Oh my God.
Yeah, so, okay, let me understand something. If you're using this framework, you would be using JUCE and C++, or would you be using something on top of JUCE and C++?
Maybe this works on top, but there are some dependencies here. Let's see. I wanted to show you this also. Wait, where is it? The modules. Oh yeah. So these are the regular JUCE modules that you all know and love, but there are also some additional HISE modules, and this is the core one, and this is something that I need to say for people who are interested in doing it. If you want to use HISE and you don't want to install that Intel, I didn't. You have to go to this HI core and disable this use IPP. But yeah, like you said, yeah, I guess that this works on top of JUCE, I want to say.
And you would be writing your extensions like audio, routing for the multiple microphones and that kind of thing. You would be writing that in C++.
Yeah, but maybe it's possible directly on JUCE. I don't know if I can do it from here. If I build the multi-channel, maybe it gives me more options here. Okay. I didn't. It's been a while since I used it, and they have added a lot of stuff. There is also a simulation about iPhone and iPad. And one other thing to note is that
you can write JavaScript in there. It says there's a scripting library there.
It gives me those two folders, Linux and Mac. I don't know if it will be possible to build audio unit or Mac VST3. I don't know. I could look at how the JUCE people are doing it. Yeah.
I don't think they're cross-compiling. Cross-compilation is so tricky.
But it's funny that you can actually use the VST version to create a standalone and vice versa. It's a nice thing. And so what you do here, so this is what you create. You create a sampler, a sine wave generator, a container. I haven't looked. It's been a while since I looked at this, but it gives you a lot of options. And the funny thing is that Contact didn't have a wavetable synthesizer until version 6, which was released in 2019. And JUCE and the HISE existed way before Contact 6, so there's something. But I don't know if they implemented it. So what you do is you create sampler. If you're familiar with Contact, you may find a lot of similarities. And also Maze worked in a similar way with this vertical grid. And here you have the round robins, which is also existed in Maze. Basically, I think that Maze was actually also built on top of JUCE, if I remember correctly. But I don't know if they used HISE or they created their own thing.
And let's recap. What was the roadblock for compiling this thing, and what was the fix?
Yeah. So the first thing was when I cloned the repository from GitHub, the two roadblocks were first the SDK problem, which I explained. You have to find the password to extract these things. Also, I don't know if it was the reason, but I used the producer that comes with the repository, which is an older one. I don't know, maybe it does work with the latest producer, and my issue was the SDK thing. But since it works, if it's not working, don't fix it.
Yeah, if they are shipping a producer, I would run their producer.
Yeah, and the final roadblock is that it forces you to use Visual Studio's 2017, even with the latest repository. So I was forced to install. Now I have two Visual Studios in my computer. I have 17 and 19. I don't know if I'm going to use 19 for anything, but I'm going to keep it. But the problem is that I'm running out of disk space. And I didn't make anything worthwhile in 2019, to be honest. So maybe I'm just going to ditch 2019 for now because I need the extra space. And since I managed to compile HISE, and what was the other roadblock? Oh yeah, the final roadblock was in the exporters. You have to make sure that the path. Oh yeah, no, that was that was ready, and also this IPP that you have to disable. Did I change anything else? No, the rest is fine because this is pre-configured. Now, I think this is a part of the producer that comes with the repository. I think that this doesn't come just from the project. They did make their own tweaks here and there. But whatever, it works. It builds.
Nice.
And yeah.
All right.
So I made progress.
So what do you plan to do for next meeting?
I'm going to actually build a plugin to see if it works because, like I said, the last time I tried it to create a plugin inside HISE, it didn't work. But now I haven't tried it, so I will. And if I find some free time, sorry, I'm going to turn off share screen. I know you turned off your share screen, but I'm going to do it just in case. And my other thing, if I find some free time, I'm going to do more experiments with Air Windows and JSFX. And because I plan to port two very important Air Windows effects. The one is called Focus, and the other one is called Channel 9, and they're both distortion saturation effects. And I would like to create GUIs for those. I had issues converting Focus, but I'm going to spam you guys with questions in the Discord. And yes. Channel 9 seems to be a bit more simple, so I guess I won't have any issue with that. And it will be, if I finish it, then channel 9 will be the first one that I will create a GUI on top of, based on the Gerund Laugh GUI library, right? That was the one.
Cool.
Yes.
And add a slider to the tape.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. The soft and hard, and we need that.
Yeah.
And I would like to do something like, are those Bertom EQ curve analyzers open source? No, they're not. But would it be possible to create something similar in JSFX?
Yes, it is possible to create something similar in JSFX. It is tricky. Yeah. It's not an easy effect, but it is possible.
Because if I manage to port, this is my final thing and I'll wrap up. If I manage to port channel 9, the Air Windows effect, into JSFX and create a GUI plugin for it, I would like to create this little window on the side that works like the EQ curve analyzer, because channel 9 has a very interesting way of distorting and equalizing your sound. It has some very specific algorithms for slow clipping, for rolling of the highs. And I want to visualize it just so the user knows what the plugin is doing to the sound. Just a visual aid.
Yeah. That will be tricky. That will be tricky.
Let's leave it for the next. Let's support the plugins first and make a GUI, and then this can be an idea on the shelf.
Yeah, yeah. We have talked about this to a great extent, actually, with Justin Johnson of ReEQ fame when he was here on the channel. And it is tricky. If you want to do it the Burton EQ analyzer way, then your curves may not look smooth and you will need to interpolate. And if you want to do it the principled way, then it is complicated from a mathematical standpoint. But I'm sure it is possible to do it. It is a matter of figuring out how to. But yeah.
Oh, and sorry, before I forget, I recommend you check out the new JSFX by Psyche. He took the Reaper, not the Face Mangler. That one is also cool, but what he did was create his own fork of the Reaper Spectrum Analyzer, and he added his own little tweaks and embellishments, and you're gonna love it. We don't have time to show it, but you can check it out.
All right, yeah, we will. I knew that he had some variation on the Spectrum Analyzer, and he has had that for the longest time, but he came up with something new and different now.
Yeah, it has. It actually sometimes it puts Voxengo spam to shame. You'll see what I'm talking about. It has a lot of crazy features.
Nice. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you post a link to it?
Oh yeah. You can just download the repack from Psyche's repository on repack, and it's gonna give it to you.
All right. Yes, go ahead, Cwits.
Yeah.
Fotis gave us so much information.
I hope your brain doesn't hurt.
A little bit melted. So,
are you okay?
While Bo and Leandro was speaking about Bo's problems in programming, I was trying to add external digital to analog converter for my Raspberry.
We were both busy.
And it was successful, so everything is working now, and I think I'm supposed to run my application with different buffer sizes now. So everything looks cool. Now, what I was managed to do from previous meeting is that I'm managed my problems with counting frames, and looks like everything works fine, and at least Metronome supposed to be frame perfect, like it sounds where it should be. something like that. Yes, if you want, I can not show, but you can hear something. I can try to. So the main idea, what you will hear now, is that I was loaded into sampler sound of snare and also loaded like a Midi clip with the Midi notes on the 2nd and 4th bar, and I can run it with Metronome and it sounds pretty straight. Yay! Like, this is without Metronome. Like basic clap, and when we add Metronome,
it is in time.
Yeah, I think
it's quantized. Is it a wood block?
I don't know. It's just random sounds from free libraries from internet, so I'm not sure. Just randomly downloaded them to check my application. But I have run into different problem with recording Midi. The problem is that if I run Metronome and try to record with Metronome, the Midi notes is a little bit after Metronome clicks, probably. When I'm pressing the button, it's recording a little bit later.
Sorry.
Probably the problem was that I had very big buffer size, and external digital to analog converter is supposed to solve it. So I don't know. I didn't try it, so I can. On this one, I will try to record something. I got some.
Can you share your video or something?
I can share my screen with code, but there is nothing much there.
I would love to hear about what the solution was for the timing of the metronome.
But if you want, it's supposed to be there. At least you will see that in terminal something moving and appearing. So I will try to. Let's try to record. Yeah, it looks better. But still, there is some kind of delay. But less than in the previous time, so I think the problem was in the big buffer size. Previously, I had 1024 samples. Now it's running, on a 256 samples. So it will be better after a while.
And do you know if the hardware is capable of running in this buffer size, or if you're going to have some dropouts?
Everything is running right now.
Fair enough.
But I don't know, maybe if I will load their bunch of samplers and effects, then some problems will appear, but I didn't try it yet, so I can say. But I can play music for now.
regarding the delay in sound, you're absolutely certain that it's not the actual samples that has a delay in them? They all start like at a 0?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I can also, one second. I can also add, for example, another sampler with a different sound. For example, some kick sound. Now let's choose another one. From something. Oh.
Hey,
it's not so loud. Sorry, I don't know how to do quieter right now.
You can actually use the mixer. Are you on Windows right now?
No, I'm on Raspberry Pi with Linux.
Raspberry Pi, yeah.
And
so when you say that you are on the Raspberry Pi, are we looking at Visual Studio Code in the Raspberry Pi, or are you running Visual Studio Code on your desktop and SSHing into the Raspberry Pi?
Yes, I'm SSHing, as you can see in
yeah, nice. There it is.
Right bottom corner. Or is it left? No, it's left bottom corner. Okay, sorry. So yeah, I can. And everything looping and was recorded and playing. So basically, I can play some basic music, and this is quite fun, quite great achievement, I think. Yay!
Awesome.
Very nice. So the solution for the timing was the buffer size, which is like pretty straightforward. That's the kind of problem that happens when you have too big of a buffer size. But what about the timing of the metronome? You had this other issue last week, and the metronome was just going out of sync, and we talked about maybe using hardware timers, and what ended up working for you?
As I said on the previous meeting, using hardware timers was very bad for me. I don't know how to configure them properly to get good performance and good timings. My problem was that if I was using buzzy way for waiting, like something like while loop, yeah, it was consuming like 100% of the CPU processing, and this isn't good for audio. So what I've decided to do, I've decided to count actual frames which my application was rendered, and then interpolate time from there. So something like that. So basic idea that was that we're always looping on a known count of samples. Yeah, like it is like buffer size. Like for now it's 256, and then earlier it was 1024. And I'm every loop I'm counting. I'm like where it is. I'm adding to the like something like global variable in my class, and this is my start point. When I'm pressing play, I'm just remembering frame when I started, and then every month, all month is coming from there. Where it is? No. Yeah, I'm just subtracting actual frame from and start frame, which I'm assigning here in the actual audio rendering stuff, and everything looks like works fine. And this way is way more better than using some timers and other stuff. For example, with the O3 compiler optimization and 3 samplers playing, I have had around 20% of CPU consuming. It's way more better than using buzzy loop in a timer with 100% of CPU. Probably there is some kind of another optimizations, for example, using to use SIMD instructions, like a single instruction multiple data, and it will give me a little bit more CPU saving. But yeah, with Metronome, you was asking about Metronome. The tricky part is that I have to use some kind of sample delay because when I'm counting frames, 1 second, where it is. Yeah, I got some variable frames per beat, and it is counting. Where it's counting? I don't remember where it's counting. Oh, but no. 1 second, I will find it. Okay. Yes, it's counting like from sample rate divided by BPM and like 60 seconds in a minute. And with the sample rate 44K, I got like something 22,050 samples per quarter node.
And that's an integer? That's lucky.
Yeah, that's an integer. I think that with different BPMs, this number will be different, and it wouldn't be an integer. So I have to manage this something in the future.
Yeah,
somehow.
you have it 120 BPM, right?
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, because that's twice the rate of seconds per minute. So hence the integer. As soon as you change it, the BPM, it's going to be a double or a float.
Yeah, mostly. But I don't know how to manage it right now. But for now, everything is working. So.
Yeah, it's
just
awesome.
don't change the BPM. Yeah, so I guess the problem is that with a fraction there, you will have to deal with the case that some beats will have 1 frame more than other beats.
Also, I have to keep in mind that not all songs are in 4/4 time signature. There could be 4/3 or I don't know 16/2 or everything else. And I have have to keep in mind that in this mathematics somehow, I don't know for now how, but in the future I will manage it somehow.
Yeah, I have worked with things that have to deal with the musical timeline as opposed to just samples or time. So the musical timeline being beats and measures and stuff. And what I learned is that the best way to go about it is to always reason in terms of quarter notes. This way you don't have to know what's the time signature. And yeah, that's my advice. Try to use quarter notes as the unit of measurement that is the musical timeline.
Oh, by the way, there is a JSFX that works with that. I did mention it in the previous meeting. The parameter sample and hold by ashcat, which is in the stash. It's not in the repack, but it allows you to set the quarter notes. So no matter what BPM you have, it halves or cuts in 4 or 8s. So maybe you can steal the code from the JSFX and put it in the.
What does it do? I don't get it.
Oh yeah, the parameter sample and hold. It was that thing that allows you to create a modulation on any parameter on Reaper, but instead of making it flow, it uses the sample and hold algorithm. You know, the one with R2D2, the one that we were discussing. So you can use. Maybe I can show it on Reaper.
No, but I think I get it. So in Reaper, there are these ways to modulate pretty much any slider with LFOs. And I guess this extension would allow you to do more LFO shapes, because the LFOs that come with Reaper are just sine wave, square, triangle, sawtooth, and then you would be able to do other things.
Yeah. And this allows you to make a choppy sample and hold and also smoothed out. And you can adjust the time and also the duration in quarter notes. So, the cool thing is that it works in 2 ways. So it has an input and an output. So you create the modulation you want with Reaper's stock LFOs on the input. And then the output is sample and hold based.
I see. And then you would link that slider. The slider itself doesn't do anything, but the point is that you can link that slider with something you care about.
Exactly, yeah. You link it to the other using Reaper's parameter link.
Now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So yeah, quarter notes, they can save you.
Yeah, this was my.
Oh, and also Cwits, maybe you could implement a function for dotted notes or triplet notes in the future.
Of course, everything will be in the future.
But yeah, this. Yeah.
Cwits, you're on the
Great
Reaper
answer.
forums, right? You're on the Reaper forums. The Reaper forums.
No.
Because there's a lot of knowledgeable people there. You can, if you get stuck on something, and I'm thinking specifically Schwa from Reaper.
Yeah.
I mean, he and Justin developed a DAW, so they've come across these problems. So you can ask at the Reaper forums, and if they're not there, there's going to be other like really, really knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
So that's as a suggestion.
Probably I should.
What's your account, Bo?
Last name, Danerius.
Mine is Fotis and stuff.
Oh, surprise.
Leandro, are you on the Reaper forum?
Yes, I am Leafak there, and I'm mostly lurking, but I sometimes post stuff there.
Yeah, me too.
Probably in the future I will be there also.
Yeah.
In the future, as in 1 hour from now?
Maybe 2.
Okay, cool.
I believe that many people from the Reaper forums are also on the Discord. Maybe.
Yeah, some people are there, and for people who want to join us, go to the link in the description and go to my website and follow the link there and get invited to the Discord channel so you can join us. Yeah, and Cwits, you mentioned in passing that you are working on, I don't remember if it's an audio, analog to digital or digital to analog converter support for your project. Which one is it? Is it analog to digital or digital to analog?
I want both.
Okay.
Because I want to make something like microphone inputs for this, and probably combined microphone inputs and with instrument input. But for now, I connected just digital to analog converter, because analog to digital converter needs external clocking, external master clock. But Raspberry don't provide these kind of things, sadly.
Really? I thought there were some modules that you could drive with a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, but they have already built-in oscillator.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and for the analog to digital converters, I think we talked about this briefly last time. But the problem with using the analog to digital converters that come with the Raspberry Pi was the resolution, because they are, I guess, 12 bits and you would like at least 16. Is that the issue?
There is analog to digital converter? I didn't know.
Yes, there are these analog pins on the Raspberry Pi, and they give you a reading of the voltage that you're putting on the pin. So yeah, there are analog inputs and analog outputs. So the analog inputs are just reading voltages between 0 and, depending on the Raspberry Pi, 5 or 3.3 volts. And that is converted into a number between, I guess, 0 and, well, it depends on the resolution you set, but I think it goes up to 12 bits. So I guess it goes up to, what is it, 4096. And
it's 2 power of resolution.
Yeah, that's 2 to the power of 12. That's 4096. Is it not? I think it is. Anyway, so you can look into using the Raspberry Pi ports for analog inputs as a crude audio interface for the microphone. I guess there are external modules to do that if you want to have better quality, because it is going to be, I guess, 12 bits. And then for the outputs, you probably want an external module. But one thing that I got this week, because I'm still buying stuff to do electronics projects, I bought a Teensy, and it comes with an analog to digital converter on the board. So there is one pin that allows you to just send analog signals up to 3.3 volts. So I guess I have to scale it up if I want to do anything like a CV on an analog synth. A modular synth would probably want something like between 0 and 10 volts, but still, you can look into Teensies maybe, and these external modules, they sell these on Amazon. It's like...
Yeah, I know them, but this is a little bit different things. Because first of all, I want high enough resolution, like 16, 24, and 32 bits. And like I want to work with normal audio. Not 12 bits, or I don't know how much Teensy know.
Yeah, all these that I mentioned are like 12 bits, which is going to be enough for me to do something like Midi to CV. It wouldn't be enough for capturing a microphone. All right, and do you know what you want to do for next time?
But using special ICs would be better, I think. As I said, I want to make PCB and solder everything on it, so it will work.
Sounds like fun.
Sounds like a waste of bunch of time.
And money too.
And money too, yeah, probably there will be a couple revisions of it.
Yeah.
By the way, Reaper just dropped their latest update. It's not very important. They just made a few updates, but it's version 6.66.
There. People were looking for were waiting for this for the longest time.
And also, Cwits, maybe you can look at this latest. I posted it on the chat. This latest plugin by Air Windows, because he got an analog to digital converter, and he created this plugin. So if you want to convert like an XLR input into a 1.18 jack input, it has some nice functions. Maybe you'll find it useful. That's why I posted it.
Okay, I obviously will
Just
check it.
Yeah, it's for your converter thing.
I really don't understand how a plugin will help with XLR and cables. What's that about?
Yeah, I didn't understand it either, but I'm gonna watch the video. He explains everything.
Yeah,
I think he filters out the output, so it's if you have a cheap input, it flips the side and it sums it to mono, so you don't have buzzing and something like that.
I'll have to watch that. I'll have to see that to believe it.
Okay.
All right. So, Cwits, I asked you if you know what you want to do for next time.
But I didn't answer for your question about Metronome.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to hear it.
Okay, yeah.
Main problem for me was that the Metronome click appears in between of the between current and the next frame. Yeah. For example, if buffer size is 1024, current closest frame is 21,504, and the next one is 22,528. So click have to appear somewhere in between. So there should be some kind of delay, and I'm counting it somehow like that. This. So main idea that if current frame plus next frame is more than frames per beat, like 22, 0, 15, 50, yeah, then there should be a tick. Then I'm counting delay, how much frames I have to wait before metronome click, and then passing it to the metronome function and doing like busy way of waiting it.
So I guess it is just a combination of counting and just sitting there and waiting.
Yes, I assume that there is a better way of doing all this, but I didn't manage to get it for now. Maybe later I will get it somehow.
Fair enough.
Yes.
I will try hard, obviously.
So I guess that's your homework for next meeting.
I'm not sure about what I will do to the next meeting because I'm a little bit stuck and I don't know what to do next because there is a lot of things to do and I can't decide what to do.
What are the options?
Damn.
Perhaps if we know all the options, then we'll be paralyzed. So give us 2 options.
2 options?
Yeah.
One of the options is to make this code looks a little bit better, to move it from this part of code to the different files and make it more pretty, and to not break everything, to make something with Midi routing, make it maybe it looks like something like this. But I don't know also how to do that. No, okay, I know, but I don't like the way how I know it. This was first option. The second, I don't know about second option.
I want to vote for a second option then. I think I know something that I think would be interesting. Working on some of the visuals, because you have worked on the visuals before. You have a grid and you have that cursor that scrolls, and you even showed the waveform. And then you started working on the recording and MIDI and all of that. It would be nice to revisit some of the graphics and do something there. Now, I don't know exactly what, but I vote for something graphic.
I totally agree, but I think that making this kind of basic things is way more important than the graphic stuff. This will be a little bit later, when I will be sure that I can record MIDI and it's work fine enough to play and edit something, and I can like leave it and don't touch this part of code, and not to struggle with this.
Fair enough. All right, you have some good options there. MIDI routing sounds interesting.
But I will think about your option. Maybe yes.
We'll see.
There is always another option that make whole code looks better, because this is very messy. I'm using like 3 different code styles, like for private variables. Somewhere I'm using M and how this is called, backslash? No,
it is an underscore.
Underscore. Okay, I'm using something like this in other codes. I'm using just underscore. Also, somewhere I'm using camel case, and I can decide which one. No, I think for me this style looks better.
I find it very therapeutic to go through a code base and change variable names and reorder stuff and move things about, and I feel like it's cleaning your desk. I appreciate it. I like doing that.
But maybe someday.
All
so
right.
I really don't know what I will do to the next meeting, but probably it will be something funny and interesting and hard.
It always is with you, Cwits, and I'm looking forward to meeting you again in 2 weeks and find out what you end up deciding to work on. But I think it's time for us to wrap up. How about we do that?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the schedule for the next stream is that tomorrow I'm taking the day off, but on Friday I will be over IDDQD Sounds channel, and Arya will have me, and Darren again. We will be mastering one of my songs in the stream. That's the plan. Anyway, we'll see. So. Yeah, I will be skipping tomorrow, but I see you all on Friday again over at IDDQD Sound. And thank you to Fotis. No, you're on this side. Thank you to Fotis and Bo and Cwits for joining me on the meeting.
Thank you, everyone in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and thank you to
for the
Mage
opportunity.
and Tail and Oscar STEM Bridge Fund for joining us on the chat. And I see you on Friday. And I see
Thank you,
all of
Microsoft.
you.
Thank you, Visual Studio.
Yeah, and I see you all in 2 weeks for another meeting. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.